Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, staring at the massive alien structure floating in space before them. The ship had been traveling for 3 months since leaving Earth, and this was their first real contact with alien life. The structure was beautiful, made of what looked like crystal and metal twisted together in impossible shapes. "Captain, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Gary Webb from his station. "It's not like anything we've seen before, but the computer is trying to translate it." Jake nodded and straightened his uniform. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for since they first looked up at the stars. "Put it through, Gary." The main screen flickered and then showed a face that was definitely not human. The alien had green scaly skin, large yellow eyes, and a mouth full of small, sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translation came through clearly. "Greetings, unknown vessel. I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian people. You have entered Coalition space. Please identify yourself." Jake stepped forward. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel New Horizon. We come in peace from the planet Earth. We're explorers looking to make contact with other intelligent species." The alien's expression changed to something that might have been amusement. "Humans, we have not heard of your species. You must be quite new to space travel. Your ship design is very simple." Dr. Amy Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, moved closer to Jake. She had been studying alien languages and cultures for years, preparing for this moment. "Ambassador Veltar, we would be honored to learn about your coalition and share information about humanity." Veltar's yellow eyes looked them over carefully. "Very well, you may dock with our station. But I must warn you, the coalition has strict rules about primitive species. Do not expect too much from this meeting." Jake felt his jaw tighten at the word primitive, but he kept his voice calm. "We understand. We're grateful for this opportunity." An hour later, Jake and Amy found themselves in a huge room filled with representatives from 12 different alien species. Each one looked completely different from the others. There were tall, thin beings with blue skin and 6 arms, small furry creatures with big eyes, and others that looked like walking plants or living crystals. High Counselor Thexia, who looked like a giant praying mantis, spoke first. "Welcome, humans. We have reviewed your ship and technology. You have achieved faster-than-light travel, which is impressive for such a young species. However, your overall development is still quite basic." Amy leaned forward. "We're eager to learn from more advanced civilizations. Perhaps we can offer something in return." Several aliens made sounds that the translator said were laughter. A floating, jellyfish-like being spoke up. "What could you possibly offer us?" "Your weapons are chemical-based projectiles. Your computers are barely capable of complex calculations. Your social structure still includes something called military forces." Jake raised an eyebrow. "You don't have military forces?" "Of course not," said Thexia. "We evolved past such barbaric concepts thousands of years ago. The Coalition maintains peace through understanding and automated defense systems. War is a thing of the past." The meeting continued for several hours. The aliens offered humanity a junior membership in the Coalition, which meant they could mine resources in a few remote star systems but had no voice in important decisions. They also made it clear that humans would need to prove themselves worthy of full membership, which could take centuries. As Jake and Amy returned to their ship, they both felt frustrated. The aliens treated them like children who had just learned to walk. "Did you notice something strange about their automated defense systems?" Amy asked as they walked through the corridors. "You mean how they're all designed to scare enemies away instead of actually fighting them?" Jake replied. "Yeah, I noticed. These people have never really fought a war. What happens if they meet someone who isn't scared?" Amy wondered. They got their answer 3 days later. While the New Horizon was still docked at the Coalition station, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Jake and Amy rushed to the command center, where they found the aliens in a state of panic. "What's happening?" Jake asked Veltar. "The Void Hunters," Veltar said, his scales turning pale. "They've attacked the colony on Kepler 186F, our defense systems. They're not working." On the main screen, they could see footage from the attacked colony. Strange black ships, sleek and deadly, were destroying everything in their path. The Coalition's automated defenses fired at them, but the alien ships seemed to learn from each attack and adapt their defenses. "Who are the Void Hunters?" Amy asked. "We don't know," said Dexia, her insect-like face showing fear. "They appeared 6 months ago. They attack without warning and destroy everything. They don't communicate, they don't negotiate, they just kill." Jake watched the footage carefully. The attacking ships moved in patterns that seemed random at first, but he could see the strategy behind them. They were testing the defenses, learning how they worked, and then finding ways around them. "How many colonies have they attacked?" he asked. "This is the 5th, Veltar said quietly. "Each time they learn more about our defenses. Each time they're harder to stop." Jake and Amy looked at each other. They both realized the same thing at the same time. The Coalition, with all their advanced technology and thousands of years of peace, had never faced a real enemy. They had created defenses that worked against other peaceful species, but they had no idea how to fight someone who actually wanted to destroy them. "We need to report this to Earth," Jake said quietly to Amy. "Our leaders need to know what's happening out here." As they prepared to leave the Coalition station, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to be drawn into something much bigger than first contact. The aliens might think humans were primitive, but they had something the Coalition had lost long ago. They knew how to fight. The New Horizon began its journey back to Earth, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, the Coalition continued to panic as more reports came in of Void Hunter attacks. Their peaceful galaxy was suddenly at war, and they had no idea how to win. Jake Morrison didn't know it yet, but he had just witnessed the beginning of humanity's rise to become the most feared military force in the galaxy. The aliens had dismissed humans as primitive, but they would soon learn that sometimes being primitive was exactly what the galaxy needed. 3 weeks after the New Horizon returned to Earth, the news had reached every corner of human space. The galaxy was at war, and humanity's new alien neighbors were losing badly. In the military headquarters on Luna, General Ryan Hayes studied the reports with growing concern. "Show me the attack patterns again," he said to his aide. Colonel Pete Nelson, the holographic display, showed the locations of 5 destroyed Coalition worlds. Hayes had spent 40 years in the military, fighting in conflicts across human space. He could read patterns that others missed. "Sir, the Void Hunters aren't random," Nelson said. "They're hitting strategic targets, mining worlds, research stations, shipyards. They're trying to cripple the Coalition's ability to fight back." Hayes nodded grimly. "And it's working. The Coalition's automated systems are useless against an enemy that learns and adapts. They need real soldiers, not computers." The door to the briefing room opened, and Admiral Sarah Kim entered. She had been working with the Coalition diplomats for days, trying to understand the scope of the crisis. "General, we just received another message from High Council Alexia," she said. "They're requesting military assistance, officially." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "The same aliens who called us primitive 3 weeks ago? The same ones? They've lost 2 more colonies since then?" "The Void Hunters destroyed the orbital defenses around New Kepler in less than 6 hours. The Coalition is terrified." Hayes looked at the star charts again. "What assets do we have available?" "Commander Lisa Park's Marine Battalion is finishing training on Titan, Captain Ben. Carter's fighter squadron is at Mars Station. It's not much, but it's more combat experience than the entire Coalition has." "Get them ready," Hayes ordered. "And contact the Coalition. Tell them we'll help, but we do this our way." 2 days later, the human transport ship Eagle arrived at the Coalition station where Jake Morrison had first met the aliens. This time, the atmosphere was very different. The aliens who had seemed so confident and superior were now desperate and frightened. Commander Lisa Park stepped off the transport with her Marines behind her. She was a tough woman who had fought in the asteroid belt conflicts and the rebellion on Europa. Her soldiers were the best humanity had to offer. "Welcome, Commander Park," said Ambassador Valtar, his green scales darker than before. "We are grateful for your assistance. Where do you need us?" Park asked directly. "The Void Hunters are approaching the planet Kepler 442b, said a new voice. Park turned to see an elderly alien that looked like a mix between a dolphin and an octopus. "I am Sage Krillin. This world has 3 billion civilians. Our automated defenses will not stop them." Park studied the tactical display. "How long do we have?" 18 hours, Krillin replied. "That's not enough time to evacuate," Park said. "We'll have to fight them here." The Coalition officers looked shocked. "Fight them? But our species doesn't fight. We have no experience with combat." "Then it's time to learn," Park said firmly. Captain Ben Carter arrived 6 hours later with his fighter squadron. He was young but skilled, having earned his reputation in the pirate wars near the outer colonies. His pilots were eager to test their skills against the mysterious Void Hunters. "What's our situation?" Carter asked as he joined the planning session. "The Void Hunters will arrive in 12 hours, Park explained. "They typically attack with 50 ships, all highly advanced. The Coalition's automated defenses will buy us maybe 30 minutes. Carter looked at the defensive plans. "These are all computer-generated patterns. The Void Hunters will have seen this before. That's why we're changing everything," Park said. "We're going to do something they haven't seen." The next 12 hours were busy. Park's Marines worked with Coalition engineers to set up manual weapon systems. Carter's pilots studied the Void Hunter attack patterns from previous battles. Most importantly, they began teaching the Coalition forces how to think like soldiers instead of relying on computers. When the Void Hunters finally arrived, they came exactly as expected. 50 black ships moving in perfect formation, ready to destroy another Coalition world. But this time, something was different. "All fighters, this is Carter," the captain called over his radio. "Remember, don't fly like the computer tells you. Trust your instincts." The human fighters moved in patterns that looked chaotic to the Void Hunters. Instead of following predictable routes, they changed direction suddenly, used unexpected tactics, and coordinated in ways that no computer program could predict. The Void Hunters, who had learned to counter every Coalition defense, suddenly found themselves confused. Their ships began making mistakes, trying to predict human movements that followed no logical pattern. "Marines, hit them now," Park ordered from the planet's surface. The ground-based weapons, now operated by humans and trained. Coalition soldiers fired at the Void Hunter ships. But instead of the steady, predictable pattern the enemy expected, they fired in short bursts, changed targets randomly, and used tactics that seemed to make no sense. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it was over, 37 Void Hunter ships had been destroyed, and the remaining 13 had retreated in confusion. Not a single Coalition civilian had been killed. In the aftermath, Sage Krillin approached Commander Park. "How did you do it? How did you defeat them when we could not?" Park wiped sweat from her forehead. "You fight like computers. We fight like humans. Computers are predictable, humans are not. But your tactics seem so random, so wasteful." That's the point," Captain Carter said, joining the conversation. "The Void Hunters learn from patterns. We don't give them patterns to learn from." Krillin's large eyes showed understanding for the first time. "You fight with chaos? We fight with creativity," Park corrected. "We adapt, we change. We do things that don't make sense to a computer but work in real life." The news of the victory spread quickly through Coalition space. For the first time since the Void Hunters had appeared, a Coalition world had not only survived, but had won. The other alien species began to look at humans with new respect. "General Hayes," Admiral Kim said when the reports reached Earth, "the Coalition is requesting more military advisors. They want to learn from us." Hayes smiled for the first time. "In weeks. Send them everything they need? And Kim, start preparing for a real war. This is just the beginning." On Kepler 442b, Commander Park looked up at the stars. 3 weeks ago, humans had been dismissed as primitive. Now they were the galaxy's only hope against the Void Hunters. She had a feeling that this was just the start of something much bigger. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes being primitive meant knowing how to fight when fighting was the only option left. 6 months after the victory at Kepler 442b, Admiral Sam Torres stood in the new Coalition war room on the space station Harmony. The room was filled with alien officers from a dozen different species, all trying to learn human military tactics. Torres had been promoted to lead the Human Military Advisory Corps, and every day brought new challenges. "The problem is simple," Torres explained to a group of Zephyrian officers. "Your people think like engineers, not soldiers. You see a problem and look for the most efficient solution. In war, efficient isn't always right." Captain Dexva, a tall, reptilian officer, raised his clawed hand. "Admiral, this makes no sense. Why would we choose a less efficient method?" "Because the enemy expects efficiency," Torres replied. "They study your patterns and learn to counter them. When you do something unexpected, even if it costs more or takes longer, you gain an advantage." The aliens looked confused. Torres had been having this same conversation for months. The Coalition species had been modified over thousands of years to be peaceful and logical. Teaching them to think like warriors was like teaching fish to fly. Major. Kate Wilson entered the room, her uniform dusty from training exercises. She had been working with alien soldiers for weeks, trying to turn them into fighters. The results were mixed. "How did the training go today?" Torres asked. Wilson shook her head. "The Aquarians are afraid to hurt each other, even in practice. The Celestials keep trying to negotiate with the training dummies. And the Manthari analyze every move for 10 minutes before making it." Dr. Chris Yang, the military technologist, looked up from his workbench. "I'd been studying their biology. Most of these species had their aggression genes removed or suppressed. Centuries ago, they literally can't think like predators." "Then we need to teach them differently," Torres said. "What about instincts they still have?" Wilson sat down heavily. "That's what I've been trying to figure out. The Aquarians still have strong protective instincts for their young. The Celestials have territorial behaviors when defending their nests. The Manthari have hunting patterns they use for food gathering. Can we use those?" Torres asked. "I think so," Wilson said, looking more hopeful. "Instead of teaching them to fight, maybe we can teach them to protect. Instead of attacking enemies, maybe we can show them how to hunt threats." Over the next month, Wilson developed what became known as the Wilson Protocol. Instead of traditional military training, she taught each species to use their natural instincts in combat situations. Aquarians learned to see enemy ships as threats to their families. Celestials practiced defending territory from invaders. Manthari learned to hunt. Void hunters like prey. The results were dramatic. Within weeks, alien soldiers who had been hopeless in combat were showing real skill. They still weren't aggressive like humans, but they were finally able to fight effectively. Dr. Young had been busy too. He had been working with alien technology, combining human creativity with advanced coalition materials. The results were weapons that were both more powerful and more unpredictable than anything seen before. "Look at this," Young said, showing Torres a new weapon design. "It's a plasma rifle that uses Zephyrian energy cores, but with human-designed targeting systems. The alien computers always aim for the center of mass, but our system can target weak points, moving parts, or even fire warning shots." "Can the aliens learn to use it?" Torres asked. "That's the beautiful part," Young replied. "The weapon adapts to how each species thinks. For Aquarians, it becomes a defensive tool. For Celestials, it becomes a territorial marker. For Manthari, it becomes a hunting weapon. Same technology, different mental approach." The first test of the new combined forces came when the Void Hunters attacked the industrial world of Proxima Nova. This time, the coalition was ready. Admiral Torres commanded the defense from the flagship Unity, a new ship that combined human tactics with alien technology. The crew was mixed with humans, Zephyrians, Aquarians, and Celestials working together. "Void Hunters approaching," reported Lieutenant Commander Jeff Stone, the human tactical officer. 50 ships, same as always. All units, remember your training," Torres broadcast. "Don't fight like them. Fight like yourselves. The battle was unlike anything seen before. Human fighters used chaotic tactics to confuse the enemy. Aquarian defenders protected the planet like it was their home. Celestial ships used territorial flying patterns that made no sense to the Void Hunters. Manthari vessels hunted enemy ships, like predators stalking prey, but the real surprise came when the Void Hunters tried to adapt. Every time they thought they understood one species' tactics, another species would attack in a completely different way. The enemy's learning systems couldn't keep up with the variety of approaches. "They're retreating," Stone reported after 3 hours of fighting. "All 50 ships are pulling back." "Negative," Torres said, watching his displays. "They're not retreating. They're calling for help." He was right. Within an hour, 200 more Void Hunter ships arrived. Then 500? Then over 1,000, Prime Minister Zolthara, the bird-like celestial leader, appeared on the main screen from the planet's surface. "Admiral, what does this mean?" Torres looked at the massive enemy fleet gathering in space. "It means we've gotten their attention? They're not just raiding anymore. This is war." The news spread quickly through Coalition space. The Void Hunters were no longer content with attacking isolated colonies. They were bringing their full force to bear against the Coalition and its human allies, but something else was happening. 2. Other species across the galaxy were hearing about the Coalition's new military success. Some were asking for help against their own enemies. Others were offering to join the fight against the Void Hunters. "Sir," Stone reported, "we're getting messages from 6 different species outside the Coalition. They want to know if we can teach them to fight like we taught the Coalition." Torres looked at the growing enemy fleet, then at the mixed crew working efficiently around him. Humans, aliens, and new technologies all working together. 6 months ago, these species couldn't fight at all. Now they were asking other species to join them in battle. "Send replies to all of them," Torres ordered. "Tell them we'll help anyone who wants to learn, but warn them this is just the beginning." Dr. Yang looked up from his workstation. "Admiral, if we're going to fight a galactic war, we'll need more than tactics and weapons. We'll need to teach them about strategy, logistics, intelligence gathering. Then we'll teach them everything." Torres said, "Every species that wants to survive is going to learn the art of war." The galaxy was changing. The age of peaceful isolation was ending, and the age of human military leadership was beginning. The Void Hunters had made one critical mistake. They had given humanity a reason to teach the galaxy how to fight back.